Hey there, Saber fans. Shamim here. Today we are taking a look at 3 different versions of the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber hilt from Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Here in the middle, we have the Master Replica's limited edition, officially licensed solid prop. It cannot accept electronics. It is a solid replica. On the left here, we have the Roman Props Inception Elite, which used to be pretty much the only installable version of this hilt that you could get for a year or two, the last couple of years or so. Roman Props did an excellent job. And now we have some competition on the market with the new Korbanth OWK3, which was manufactured by 89 Sabers over in China. So Korbanth is now bringing us the OWK. We have the Inception Elite. I will just be referring to it as either the Roman Props or the Inception, or the Inception, and then this as the Korbanth or the 89, and this as the Master Replicas. So just looking at all 3 hilts from top to bottom, we can see that the Roman Props is a little bit shorter than the Master Replicas and the Korbanth hilt. I'm looking and seeing where exactly the discrepancy lies. From here, it looks about even. It looks like it's the control box area. This clamp section starts at the same level, but then this Master Replica's one, the clamp goes a little bit taller, is just a little bit taller, and that's where the rest of the, that's where the missing millimeter or two of height, that's where the main difference comes in. The other 2 big change or differences that I see between these two, especially the Master Replicas and the Roman Props, is the color of the copper neck. Roman Props decided to use real brass and real copper up here for his neck sections, which gives it a really nice appearance. And then also this little greebly button here is solid copper, is real copper. On the Master Replica's prop, you can tell that there is a little bit more of a dark, glossy sheen to the brass section, and then this copper bit is not really copper, it's more of an orange color. And the 89 version, the Korbanth version, has managed to capture both the brass neck section and the copper neck section, the color and the texture, very nicely compared to the Roman Props. One thing I dislike, and we'll take a look at this a little bit closer, I'm just noticing it now, is this little groove, the recessed bit here on the Korbanth, is very beveled, or I guess it's very round. The edges are not straight and sharp as they are here on the Master Replicas, and as they are on the solid copper one here, or the genuine copper one here. The other big difference is all up in the control box area. This greebly is a little bit bigger than the greebly here on the Master Replicas, and of course, while it is accurately colored, the size of this one here is a little bit more genuine to the Master Replicas prop. This little greebly down here, the 6-sided, I don't even know what you want to call it, but this 6-sided greebly here is chrome plated on the Korbanth, like it is on the Master Replica's hilt. It is just brushed aluminum here on the Inception Elite from Roman Props. So if you wanted to get it a bit more accurate, you'd need to chrome plate that guy. This is an older version, a slightly older version of the Inception Elite. I don't know if Roman Props' current version has chrome plated bottom greebly here. It might. But as far as I'm aware, Roman Props is discontinuing this hilt after he ships out his last current stocks. I don't think he's doing another run of that, which is a shame because it was a beautiful hilt and it was my first installed version of this lightsaber hilt that I love so much. Let's zoom in closer and take a look at some of these things a bit more closely now. Pardon the jerky camera as I get reset up. Okay. Let's bring these a bit closer. We can see a bit more of the detail. we look at these up close. If we turn these now to the front, where we can see the control box, you can really see how much this this copper button here, the Greebly, sticks out compared to the Master Replica's prop. Even the bottom silver Greebly, the chrome Greebly, does stick out a little bit more than it does on here. Even this one, the curve is a little bit more pronounced on the Roman prop. So neither the Roman props nor the Korbanth were able to perfectly capture and perfectly replicate both of those Greeblies. Either one of them is close, or the other one is close, or something is off. Overall, I think on most details I prefer the 89 Korbanth version, and we'll go over some of the things that I like and dislike about each one as we kind of move up the hill. You can see that control box wise and circuit card wise, the 89 is almost identical to the Master Replica's prop. The one here from Roman Props, it is, pardon me, you can see that on this one the control, the circuit card itself slides underneath raised side rails, whereas here it's just sort of sandwiched in between the side rails, and on here as well it's sandwiched in between, so it's not wider underneath the side rails as it is here on the Roman Props. This is a little bit more sturdy in terms of retention that Roman Props has, but in terms of accuracy it is not as accurate to the Master Replica's prop. And that's really what I'm going off of, is how closely were these two hilts able to replicate the Master Replica's prop. The finish on the brass circuit card also is a little bit flatter on the Inception. I mean, I know that it's catching the light here, but it is definitely a different material. I can tell that this is acrylic versus a metal that has been either laser engraved or otherwise engraved, which we have here on the Korbanth and on the Master Replicas. Let's take a look at the screw on the CoverTech knob. Korbanth seems to, or I'm sorry, the Inception Elite seems to have accurately replicated the silver button head screw. It does have a washer on the Master Replicas that the Inception does not have, and it looks like the Korbanth went for a black anodized button head screw instead. I mean, it's a screw, so like you can obviously swap it out and put a washer in there if you wanted to get super accurate to the prop. So that's an easy thing to fix. Let me take this out again and just take a look at the black section of the control box. So on the Master Replicas, the circuit card itself is super thin. You can barely even tell that it's there when you look at just the black box there. It just looks like a box. Whereas, see here on the Korbanth, you can clearly see that the circuit card is a separate piece. And I think what I may do is I may shave down the tactile switch, because there are two tactile switches underneath here. What I may do is use a Dremel and sand down those tactile switches just a bit so that this can sit a little bit closer to the black. And here there is no gap between the circuit card and the black, but as I mentioned, the acrylic circuit card is much thicker than you see here, and it's just a completely different profile. Speaking of profile, you can see here on the Master Replica's prop that there is a bit of an angle going up to the face of the circuit card. It is not a perfect like 90-degree angle at the top of the control box as it is here. You can see that going up to here and then going up to the circuit card, it is a bit of a 90-degree angle, even though the top of the side rails is a little bit curved. It does not have the same angular profile that the Master Replicas has. But one thing that the Corbanth did, that the 89 Sabers does, is much more accurately replicate the style of this control box. And I think that sanding down the switches will make it an even more faithful and accurate reproduction. The control, or not the control, the grenade section. I'm going to put you back into this. Let's see if we can get you a bit higher now. The grenade section on all three is basically identical from what I can tell. The finish is sort of a glossy black. All the proportions seem pretty good. The one thing about the Roman props, for example, if you notice the clocking, you see that here the circuit card is in between one notch and one notch, whereas on the Roman props, or on the master replicas, the notch going up the middle is in line perfectly with the circuit card, and you have that same thing here on the Corbanth. So that is accurate to the master replicas. You can clock and time this because it's a double. This is a female threaded, this is a female threaded, and there's a double male coupler in here. So you can, switch things around and, screw it down one way, screw that up the other way, and get it to clock. The same way with the booster section down here. You can see that there is a ridge, a valley in the booster section that's perfectly in line with the circuit card, and the same thing here. That is not quite the case with this one, especially if you tighten this all the way. Then it is not lined up the same way that it should be. And then you see also that the CoverTech knob is a little bit off center, is like a 85 degree instead of 90. So again, there's a double male thread here that you can use to clock. But one thing that I do like about the Corbanth is that it is perfectly clocked. I tighten this as far as it will go, and it lines up perfectly. So that's one thing that I like about the Corbanth, about the 89 version. So the grenade sections are pretty much the same. Moving up to the neck sections now. Let's move these a little bit closer. Take a good look at these. This Corbanth neck is even just a little bit darker and richer and glossier than the Master Replicas. And it may just be because this particular Master Replicas is a little old. You can see, like right up here, there was a scratch from the previous owner that I bought it from. This is not a brand new hilt. But you can really tell how less indented this recess section is here on the Corbanth one here compared to the nice sharp defined edges. I wonder if we can, you can really see the nice sharp defined edges compared with kind of lackluster. You can really tell the difference now in this particular shot. I hope you all can see. Compared with this one, on the copper one, it's very distinct. And I like that about the Roman props. You can definitely powder coat this to very closely match this coloring, and then you get the nicer sharp edges on the recess bit compared with the very rounded bits there. The brass also is untreated brass, so there's no gloss clear coat on this brass. It is exposed brass. So I did polish both the copper and the brass up before I did this video, but with both of these, there is some kind of clear coat finish on this, and on here as well. There is some kind of clear coat finish, so that you don't have to keep polishing it up. Moving on to now the emitter. As we mentioned, you can see that here at the emitter, it is obviously a millimeter or two shorter than the Master Replicas and the Corbanth, which are the same height. And I think that this is, again, due to slightly different sizing on the control box clamp section, because everything else seems properly proportioned. All of them, all three of them, this copper bit sits a couple millimeters into the hilt, into the brass section. One thing that you can tell about the Roman props, you can see a bit of the female threading from in the brass section here. You can see that it is fully threaded all the way, whereas here on the Master Replicas there is no threading in the brass section to see, And it looks like, this is my first time looking at it, but it looks like there is no threading visible on the Korbanth one as well, or either. So that's a point for the Korbanth. Looking at the emitter itself, I always thought that this was chrome, but it looks like it's just highly polished aluminum. The top of the emitter on the Roman props is chrome, and it looks like this is chrome as well. Both of these, this one and this one, have different finish than the brushed aluminum, the highly polished one, but it does look brushed aluminum to me. Now I'm going to take this out of the stand, and we're going to take a look at the emitters. Both of the emitters, the left and the right one, compared to the Master replicas, look pretty accurate. The Inception Elite does not come with a blade plug. This is the LED heatsink. There are blade plug options out there, but if you want to use them, you will have to shave this down to half as tall or a little bit shorter so that the blade plug can appear recessed, quote unquote, once you shave that blade plug, or once you shave the heatsink down a little bit. The Korbanth 89 Sabers version does come with a blade plug, but I dislike it. I hate the ring going around it because it messes with the accuracy of the blade plug, unfortunately. So you will get a ring of shine through on this Korbanth hilt. I would rather that it had been a solid blade plug, and then if you wanted shine through, you could drill a small hole in the middle there, similar to how I've done that on Luke V2 from Return of the Jedi. But otherwise, the proportions of the emitter themselves look pretty good. I'm looking at the angles and I'm looking at the lines. Both replicas seem to have captured that pretty well. One thing that I do like about the Roman props, for example, is being able to clock where the retention screw goes. Let's zoom back so that we can see. There you have your retention screw, and you have your retention screw there. So this screw is a little bit lower. This screw is a little bit higher. I like it being a little bit higher. You get a couple extra millimeters of screw depth, and it is a little bit higher. The higher the retention screw, the greater the blade retention will be, especially on these thin neck sabers. But the added advantage of having it a little bit lower in this section is that if you wanted to, you can bore this out for a slightly larger screw. I think this is a 440 screw currently, so you could expand this out for a 632 or an 832 if for whatever reason you wanted it to be much more durable than the 440 screw can allow. Anyway, because of the way that this emitter works, you can, let's see if we can do this here. You can hold the inner bit and screw and turn this around and clock the retention screw wherever you want, and then tighten it up. So like I could have it here on the front, close to where the circuit card is. Or I could move it a little bit further back and have it now, on this side where the greeblies are. And I can keep doing that. I usually like to put it on the back side so that it's not visible. Unfortunately, that does not seem to be possible with the Korbanth emitter, because there is no inner LED heatsink. That's the blade plug that you see right there. It is a mirrored chrome-plated blade plug. So there's no inner mechanism that locks the emitter on. The emitter is just screwed directly onto the copper-colored bit, and that means wherever your screw is drilled, that's what you're stuck with. And unfortunately for me, it's kind of awkwardly here on this side. It's not even in line with anything. So I wish that there was a way to perfectly clock the retention screw. And it bothers me because the grenade section, the clamp, and the booster are all perfectly clocked, right out of the box. And I wish that there had been either a way to perfectly clock the emitter retention screw, or to have 89 Sabers put the retention screw in an appropriate position, perhaps on the backside where you normally don't see anything. That would have been an ideal place to put it. Speaking of clocking, let's take a look at the pommel. because I didn't talk about the pommels yet, so we're going to go all the way down. You can see that right in between these two pommel cubes, that's where the circuit card is, and you have not the same thing here. So the 89 is not perfectly clocked on the pommel. That's unfortunate. And it is not perfectly clocked on the Inception either. So neither of the two replica pommels are perfectly clocked, even though the booster is perfectly clocked here. I wish, but I mean, you could probably fix that with a little bit of sanding or an O-ring or so in between the booster and the pommel. Speaking of pommel, let's flip them upside down and just take a look at the very bottom of the hilt. I guess now we can also kind of look at the underside of these brass bits. Let's take a look at that. You can really tell here the difference in finish between the untreated brass without any kind of clear coat and this brass, which are both, or I should say this brass coloring. I'm not sure what the actual metal material is, but this brass coloring has been sort of clear coated. And they really go very nicely together. Like comparing these two is very, very close. Yeah, okay. Let's take a look at the pommels. Both of them seem relatively accurate. It looks like this one is missing a little bit of the detailing. Maybe a little bit deeper on the stamp would have been nice. But the 89 seems to have replicated it pretty perfectly. So points to 89 on that one. Let's see if there's anything else. Looking at the control box again. You can see the size difference in that orange greebly. And you can tell that the aluminum one here has not been chrome plated. But either way, both of them are very, very nice replicas. Let's go ahead and turn them back. Weight-wise, 89 feels a little bit heavier. This Korbanth one feels a little bit heavier. The Master Replicas one is solid and is super heavy. That's the way I like it. Anyway, let's zoom out and get a nice beauty shot. So I think overall, I prefer the 89 version just because detail-wise it has a bit more accuracy than the Roman props. I have not yet installed the new Korbanth 89 Sabers version, so I don't know how easy it is to install. I've installed the Inception Elite a couple times, and I haven't really run into any problems on that hilt, so it has been a very simple install. Both the Inception Elite and the Roman props come with alternate pommels that have venting for sound, so that is a plus in case you're going to be doing an install. You can see that both of them will come with an install, or both of them will come with vented pommel, whichever one that you end up with. So yeah, Master Replicas is a gorgeous hilt. I've always loved this particular design. Those of you who have followed my channel for a while know that Obi-Wan's lightsaber from Episode 3 is my all-time favorite lightsaber design from any Star Wars media whatsoever, video game, books, comics, or the movies or TV shows. So I was very excited to see that Korbanth was now carrying the 89 Sabers version. I was excited to see that 89 was doing a version. I believe that Ultimate Works also has a version of this hilt. I unfortunately don't have that one in my possession, but would love the opportunity to review it at some point in the future and compare it with these other three fine versions of the hilt. So yeah, I'll put links below to the Inception Elite from Roman Props and the OWK3 from Korbanth / 89 Sabers in case you are interested in buying either of them. And I wanted to thank you all so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.